Hello, family. Let me know if y'all can hear me. When I say Hasatan has been busy this afternoon, he has. First, camera wasn't acting right. I had to reboot my computer. What else wasn't acting right? Microphone wasn't acting right. The little thing for my port wasn't connecting. It was like everything that could go wrong. I was like, yeah, I'm going live. I'm going live. Definitely going live. So, family, what's up? Look who I got with me. He is fresh out the pen. Fresh out the pen. Come on. Give us one. I can't hear you. Please don't tell me you having hardware technical issues. I can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Can't hear you. You remember last time you had the headphone issue? Let me make sure my volume up. Yep, my volume up high. Do y'all hear Pastor Kelly hit two? I mean, one, if y'all can hear Pastor Kelly. Come on, hit one if y'all can hear Pastor Kelly. Hit one. Because no telling what's going on with mine. I couldn't hear. I couldn't do nothing. Okay, why is nobody? Hello? Nope, they can't hear you. Okay, so I guess he coming back. What's going on, fam? He gonna come back. Y'all, today has been a day. And you see, Hasatan is still busy. He don't want this to happen. He don't want it. Now Pastor Kelly having issues. Y'all, Hasatan is busy today. Y'all pray against, never mind. I was finna say. I felt myself going to a petty place. Pray for me. Y'all pray. I want everybody to pray. What's going on? What's going on, y'all? What is the deal with everyone? I hope all is well. All is well. Well, we're going to wait on a couple of the people to show up because I had sent an invite out. I'm going to let my bro get done with his dojo. Mr. Zadok, he'll be on here in a little bit. I have sent it out to Blacktastic and Renice and Teo Ministries. I'm not quite sure. Still waiting on them. Let's see. I think we're just waiting around for everybody. So what's up, everybody? Tell me what everybody doing today. How has your Sabbath been so far? I hope all is well. I hope all is well. Oh, let me cut this down. All right. I hope all is well, family. All is well. Let me see who I got in here while we wait for everybody. Let's see. Kimberly, Malene, Anaya, Ruhama, Brew Queen, Stephanie, Angie, Love, Timothy Price, Roderick, My Life Totally, Laverne Johnson, you Taylor, Susan, Rap Wolf. I hope I'm saying it right. Darnell, Aerospike, Lynn, Leah, W Mac. Trying to see if I got everybody. Tika Ya, what's going on? Angela, I think I said Aerospike. What's up? Eric, Frederick, Shirley, Enosh. Who else do I have at? Coco, Lola. I hope I'm saying that right. Sandman, Mr. Spacely, Dale J. What's going on? Ernest Higgs. Karis, what's going on with you? Let's see. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Melvin Douglas, what's up with you? Ernest, what's going on? Cam to play your rock mail. I hope I'm saying that right. Eli. Yeah, I hope I'm saying that right. All right, family. Let me bring Pastor Kelly in here. I'm calling out all these names. Say something for the people.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right. Let me pull this closer to me. I'm not sure what was happening. That was
I
kind of
don't know either.
crazy.
I don't know either, bro. I don't know either. Talk to the people since you out of jail. Let me do something real quick. Come on, talk to the folks.
Yeah, I want to say peace and blessings, family. I am out of the pen, so to speak. I was in the pen for like 4 months for no reason. Finally, they released it after a number of times of me complaining. So they let me out. I know many was complaining about being locked down for like a week or so, but I was in the pen for quite some time, right? So I thank the Most High, but still, that's not going to stop me from working on an alternative because I don't like to be completely and solely dependent on someone else's platform. So I am working on something right now, as far as a video media server. I'm actually building it here to launch it at my house and then transition it from here to an offsite. But yeah, I want to say peace and blessings to you, family. I hope you guys are having a great Shabbat. You know, I pray that if you don't have a place of worship, tune in to here or to my YouTube page, and we will be broadcasting our Shabbat service. So, got a lot that we're working on. But want to say peace and blessings again tonight, and I am out of the pen. I
Yes.
was ready to do some pop locking. You know, I thought you had the other intro that had the pop
There go,
locking music in the background.
there go my sis. Don't play with her. Don't play with her. That's my sis. What's going on, Carol? I'm happy to see you out here. What's going on with you, Pastor
Hey,
Kelly?
what's going on? You know, I just noticed how your display with your icon, you know, when
Mhm.
you bring somebody's comment up, are you using StreamYard or are you using another tool?
I'm using StreamYard. You know, up here you can let me see. So you know you can change your banners.
I
It's the
didn't know
same.
that.
Like I can change it to
Well, I know
this.
that portion of it, but I didn't know you could change the display of the comments.
Oh yeah, whenever you change the display of the comments, let me show you. It changes also the display. When you change like the display like this, like the naming, it changes this as well.
Oh, I got you. I
Yeah.
got you. Okay. Okay. Learn something new. I'm, you know, I'm kind of like the guy from what's that? What's that movie? I'm gonna get you, sucker. Remember the pimp that came out of jail
Yeah.
and he was behind the times. He came out pimping, you know, thinking that he had on, you know,
The
he was up
best
to date. He
quote.
had on his yellow suit with his, you know, his hat tilted to the side. He had a fish tank in his shoes. So he's coming out with the music playing behind him, and he thinking everyone is going to receive him. And before you know it, people start laughing at him because he behind the time. And one of the shoes broke, the fish fell out, and everything. He had the platform shoes. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling like I just got released from AOL.
Did you say AOL? You know what? Did you really say AOL? I'm gonna let that one
Yeah,
pass.
yeah. I feel like I just got released from AOL, or better yet, that I'm no longer on Black Planet.
Did you just say Black Planet?
Remember
What
Black
that's about?
Planet? That I'm not that I finally let go of Black Planet, you know, because I was the only one. I was like, I am legend in Black Planet.
I'm not
Everyone's gone.
familiar. Orthodox Small, what's going on with you? So you got released out of the pen. You got released. Wait a minute. Orthodox Small say you've got mail. So I wanted to bring you on. I wanted to bring a couple people on. Everybody's not up for it today, so it looked like it might just be me and you, and Zadok may roll up in here. Um, I guess the subject has to do with the seven bowls, and we've been talking about the revelation. I'm trying to get us back into the swing of finishing up on the series dealing with revelation, and you talk about the seven bowls of judgment, but I also kind of want to delve into millennial reign. I want to kind of get out of the judgments for a little bit, and then I will not just get out, but talk about it, but kind of talk about the millennial reign and what that means to Israel. we talk about.
We reign during the millennial reign. That's it. All right. Thank you very much. Good night.
I'm gonna need you to do a little bit more than that. You know what? You know what? Since he been out of jail, y'all, he had no act right.
Well, I
No
guess
act right.
what's the question? I'm just kind of curious about the millennial reign. Is it far as Israel's role during the millennial reign?
Correct.
Um,
And what that means to the Gentiles as well, because I was reading, was it Zechariah 14? And it talks about that, if what he's going to do with Israel in that reign, but also how he's going to deal with the nations, because it talks about that they have to come for the Feast of Tabernacle. Point made, there's going to be a feast day celebrated in the 1,000-year reign, and if the stranger or the ones that are not Israel don't come for that feast, they will not receive any rain.
yeah, because what's interesting when you and we could go to Leviticus chapter 23 for those that are not familiar with the Feast of Tabernacle, and you'll see the law of the Feast of the Tabernacle. Some will refer to it as the Feast of Booths, and I think
Mhm.
that that can kind of go into that chapter can help paint a picture because with the scripture that you pointed out, um, versus Leviticus chapter 23, at that time it wasn't required for the strangers per se, the non-blood descendants of Israel, to have to do the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Booths, so to speak. So, and we could kind of give more clarity by just bringing up that scripture.
I'm pulling
Um,
it up now. What is it? What did you say? Leviticus.
yep, Leviticus chapter 23.
Okay. Do you prefer a version? KJV, NIV, ESV?
Well, I like the KJV or Amplified either way. Really don't deal with the NIV.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. In fact, let me go to Blue Letter Bible because it gives you um 1 second. Leviticus. Which one? Leviticus what again?
chapter
23.
23.
All right.
And you can start right about, let's see, verse 33.
I'm going there now. I don't move as fast. 33. All right. Sharing my screen. Here we go. Leviticus. And you want me to read or you read?
Read.
Oh my goodness. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of the 7th month shall be the feast of tabernacle for 7 days unto the Lord. On the first day shall be a holy convention. Ye shall do no
Read it again. Read it again. No, I'm just messing with you. I was about to go coach it. Read the Bible, son. Read the Bible, daughter.
no
Read.
servant work therein. 7 days shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord, and on the 8th day shall be a holy day, a holy convention unto you, and ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a solemn assembly, and ye shall do no servile work therein. Okay, so
All right. Let's go down some more. Let's go down to uh, verse 39.
39. Okay. All right. Also, in the 15th day of the 7th month, when ye have gathered in the fruit of the Lord, ye shall keep a feast unto the Lord 7 days. And on the first day shall be the Sabbath, and on the 8th day shall be Sabbath.
And now, what's interesting about here too, just starting even with this text right here, you see the celebration is a week, right? The 8th day, and you see that it starts with a high holy day, and it ends with a high holy day. Similar to when you study about the Passover and the Feast of the Unleavened Bread, especially the week that the Hebrew Israelite Messiah was lynched, you'll see that that fourth day of the week was a high holy day, right? Well, no, wait, is it fourth day? Yeah, the fourth day, which is that Thursday, right? Let me No, yeah, the fifth day rather. The fifth day was a high holy day, and I believe that Friday or the sixth day was also a Shabbat as well. So, because you'll see that there were multiple Shabbats, but you see here it starts with the Shabbat and it concludes with the Shabbat. So I just thought I'd point that out because remember, Exodus chapter 31 makes it clear that the Shabbats, plural, they are signs, right? So I just want to point that out as well. So we'll see that when we tie this into the tabernacles, right, that you pointed out, we see that it's going to be tied around the Shabbat, right? So this is just giving a little clarity for those that are not familiar with the feast days. And then another key month that you see here, the seventh month, right? What's so important to understand about the seventh month, we also know that the seventh day is what? A day of rest. The seventh year is the year for the land to rest. And if you study the scriptures and you study about the ark, the ark came to rest in the seventh month, right? So I'm just throwing a couple of nuggets out there for those that are not really familiar with the text, but just kind of giving some other, some key information to really understand the importance of the Shabbat. So we know that the Shabbat is what? A sign. And you see that it's still tied, connected to the feast days, and we see that it's connected to the Feast of Tabernacles. Unmute your mic, sis. I think your mic is muted, Sister Eve.
I'm sorry. I was trying to move it out of the way because it's hard to see with it in front of me. So you want me to continue to 40?
Yeah.
Okay, so Leviticus 23 and 40. And ye shall take ye on the first day the booths of good. I hope I'm saying that right.
Actually, you know what? We could go down to verse 41.
30. Which one?
Go to verse 41.
41. Okay. And ye shall keep it as a feast unto the Lord 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. Ye shall celebrate it in the seventh month. So it says, ye shall dwell in booths 7 days. All that are Israelites Israelites born shall dwell in booths.
You see
Now,
what's
when you
happening
say
now?
booths,
Say, go
so
ahead.
so when you say booths, are we saying what we
That,
consider
that Go ahead.
that's a tabernacle or a tent, or when you say
Yeah. So when you see, remember when you go to the when you get the imagery, I'm not sure if you saw the illustration of the tabernacle, and you see the how the communities of each of the tribes were encamped around the tabernacle, right? They were dwelling in, you could say, small tents. You can also see it's interchangeable with booths. So this is kind of to remind Israel of their humble beginnings. Right, so that's what this is right here. So they are reminded every year to, regardless of where they are dwelling at, to basically create themselves boosts. And for this whole period, they're basically being reminded of where they come from.
so when you go back up to 40, let's look at 40, and it said, it shall take you on the first day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and the boughs of thick trees, and willows of the brooks, and ye shall rejoice before the Lord. So in the seventh day. So what does this symbolize? Because I've read this before,
Well,
and
this is. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you.
I'm,
I
I'm
thought.
just a question. You could.
Well, pretty much again, Israel is creating a dwelling place. Some would say it's a shack or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it, but they're being reminded of their humble beginnings.
Okay.
You ever hear from from your family, whether it's your dad or your mom's or whoever, that's in your family, when you're going off to school, they'll tell you, don't forget where you come from, that type of thing. That's all this is right here. It's just more so reminding them where they started at. So every year they had to celebrate the tabernacles, and these are one of those pilgrimage holy days that 3 times a year, I believe Deuteronomy, either chapter 16, I
Mm-hmm.
believe 16:16 and 16:17, deals with the three pilgrimage feasts that they have to come together and honor these feast days. So yeah, so that's all this is. It's just
The
them
humble beginning.
building up, their, you can even say hut or whatever you want to refer to, but they're actually building up their place. They're kind of reminding them when they were in the desert, when they really didn't have any, when they didn't have their native country, and this is kind of just reminding them
Mhm.
of their humbling beginnings, because sometimes we can forget where we come from, and Israel, by way of Moses, were reminded through Moses even how to treat the strangers among them.
Mm,
Because oftentimes we can forget, and that's what Moses had to remind Israel, that you were strangers as well. You didn't have a place of your own. Remember these things so that way you don't treat the strangers the same way. Because sometimes
mm.
we can kind of forget that we had to start somewhere. We had, even in this truth, many of us were lost. Even though we were in the church, many of us were still lost. So that's what this is kind of reminding them, that hey, your humble beginnings, do not forget where you come from.
That's interesting. So it's kind of, when you look at it like in present tense, it's kind of like now, because we're in a situation where we're living in the midst of the strangers, and we start out in humble beginnings where, I mean, overall we're people that we're still trying to maintain. So I was just wondering, because when I read that, and when we skipped over it, I was like, I've read this before, and I always wondered the symbolism behind it, or is there symbolism? So far as how that would, look now, if we were to look at it from that standpoint.
Yeah, so what we did, it was so awesome, because I don't know if you remember, we did it for the first time this past year.
Yeah,
So
I
what we
hate.
did was, we camped out in my backyard. And it
Mm-hmm.
was, and I encourage everyone, if you haven't done it, it's a great thing to do. And it really brought us our assembly closer together. So everyone's setting up their tents, and helping each other to set these tents up. And we just stayed the night out in the woods in my backyard.
Wow.
This year we're going to extend it. And it's funny that someone that a coworker of mine just going to give me a tent. It's a nice tent for outdoors, but to be able to even set it up in the yard or whatever. But yeah, it's an awesome experience for those that haven't experienced it. I'm telling you, for those that are kicking against the pricks about honoring the feast days, I'm telling you, it's not hard unless you make it hard. So yeah, we had a great time. You missed out on that one, Sister E, but we got the next one coming up.
We got the next one coming up. I was trying to get adjusted here, and get
Yeah.
myself together as far as adjusting to the weather here. I was, because you remember I had a serious sinus headache. But I mean, it's getting better now. I hadn't had any allergy issues thanks to, your specialty, that berry tea you told me to drink. But I mean, it was doing the feast days are fun. I enjoyed Passover. And it was enjoyable, and I can't wait for the next ones. So do you want to continue on to 41 and 42, or?
Yeah, if you go down to, let's see, verse 42. And the key here is what I wanted to highlight, because you see that Israel is at the center of here.
Mm-hmm.
This is not an option when it says ye shall. That's not an option. That's actually a commandment. you
Yep.
know Amar also means, transliterates to shall, but it also transliterates to the word command.
Mm-hmm.
Dwell yashab, in other words, this is going to be permanent, far as this remembrance. So ye shall dwell in the booth 7 days. All that are Israelites born shall dwell in booths. You see what I mean? So here we see that there was no option. It was not optional for those that are blood descendants of Israel to honor these feast days. And for those that may say, well, Israel was not in, they were not in the promised land yet. Well, guess what? They still honored the feast days. It
Correct.
started in the desert. It started with with them not having their territory, but they also was preparing for the future as well. So
So
you
yeah,
see here, okay, go ahead. I'm
I,
sorry.
no, I was just, no. You can go ahead and finish. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So just the point that I want to make is, when you look here, this gives you more information about what the Feast of Tabernacles is, and you see that it was not optional. And and this is the Most High. If you go to the beginning of the chapter, you'll see the Most High making it clear this is not a man-made thing. This is His feast days, right? And so right now you see that it's mandatory for Israel, right? And what's interesting, I wanted to tie this into Zechariah that you pointed out, just so that way the people could kind of understand, what the Feast of Tabernacles really is.
Correct.
And this is a great chapter for those that are not familiar with it. The feast days. Go back over this chapter. You learn a lot when you just go through the details of it. You'll learn that the Most High love fried foods. You learn that your ancestors cooked
Yeah.
their meats in the frying pan, right? That's in the book of Leviticus. So that the Most High, that not just the Most High, but the Israelites, these are our people, frying that food up in the frying pan.
Yep.
And Most High getting his double portion.
So, what would you say, quail? Was it when they was frying the quail?
Man, they was getting it in, and I kind of use this as an icebreaker. When I would tell my family members when we would go meet with them, and I would tell them, "What if I told you the Most High love fried foods?" Then I take them to the scriptures about cooking their meat in the frying pan, and doing the old school, like how Grandma used to cook it.
I was laughing because Eric beats bro. He said, "I'm gonna show you. Most High like fried chicken. We like fried chicken." And I was like, "Show me where." And when he showed it to me, I was like, "Bro, you was correct." Hold on. I'm gonna get Zadok with the link. He needs the link.
So if you go to Leviticus chapter 2, verse 7, see that used to be one of my icebreakers, especially when I would travel around, going up and down this coast, to educate our brothers and sisters, those that wanted to learn the text for the first time. That would be one of my icebreakers. I would let them know, what if I showed you that the Most High love fried foods, and then I'll go right into the scriptures. I'll point out Leviticus chapter 2, verse 7. In Leviticus chapter 7, verse 9. And I was teaching them how to use that as an icebreaker with their own family members.
That's interesting. Let me see. I just sent Zadok the link. He's hopping in as well. Now, family, I want to make sure I clarify what the subject is, because it originally was going to be 7 bowls and the wrath of Yah. I just decided let's move on and start talking about the millennial reign, and we can come back and talk about the 7 judgments, because I want Pastor Kelly and a couple of others to be involved in this conversation, and I couldn't get some of them, so we'll come back to this. But I still wanted us to dwell into the millennial reign. So do you want me to read? You said 43 and 44, right?
Yeah.
That your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. And Moses declared unto the children of Israel the feast of the Lord, the feasts of the Lord.
So you see how it's saying that verse 43 is the key, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. So this is for them to be reminded of what the Most High had done for them. It's because we can kind of get goldfish memory, the old saying about goldfish having a 2-minute memory, to where as though 1 minute they could be in the fish tank. And I'm sure all of us had the fish tank before, and that goldfish go next to that Oscar, and the Oscar chase it around and gets away. And then 2 minutes later, go right back in front of the Oscar, completely forgetting that it got away. But when we look at here, we see that this is a reminder, starting with Israel, of how the Most High delivered them, and they were still in their transitional period to going into the promised land. So they had to dwell in these temporary dwelling homes or houses or tents, whatever you want to call it. They had to dwell, live in these temporarily as they were making that transition. What's up, Zadok?
Wagwan with you.
What's up, my brother?
Hey, what's up? Hey, man, I want to apologize. I couldn't get with you last week when I was in Virginia, man. I was like, yo, I wanted to get with Pastor Kelly, and a brother ran into a situation, man. So I couldn't even go to Baltimore. I was coming to you. Then I was supposed to go to Baltimore, then come home. I had to beeline straight back home, but the Most High is great. But thanks for the conversation, man. It was great talking with you. I looked up and like, yo, did I just talk to him for like almost 2 hours? I don't even know him like that. I feel like I know him like that. Yo, but praise God, man. Thank you, man. It was a great convo, and prayerfully the Most High will allow that opportunity for us.
Likewise, it will happen.
Make sure when you go, let me know, young Chimney, because I'm like, 45 minutes away from Pastor Kelly.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. But yeah, me and Pastor Kelly was chopping it, man. He ain't playing no games.
Oh, no.
Likewise. You know how we get it in offline, guys. You know, and it's nothing like discussing the word. You know, it's nothing like it. You know, you lose track of time. You know, especially when you don't have to deal with a lot of some of the stuff that we see happening right now. You can kind of get away from all of that and just really genuinely discuss the word, and like breaking bread. Psalms 133. I got that feeling when he and I was talking. That's how I felt. I just felt that scripture. All through the conversation with my brother.
Hallelujah. What's up, E?
What's going on? And I want to tell you something. Like you said, I neglected my sister. You didn't neglect me. I knew you was busy. Then I took a little break. I had to
you took a break too?
Okay. Yeah, I had to. I had family in town, I think the week before. And I think the prior week was Passover. Whatever that week was, I had Friday was trying to do Passover. And then I forgot what happened last weekend. I think last weekend I did something. So no, I kind of figure I try to give everybody breaks. But thanks for coming on. I enjoyed what you did today as well.
Oh, praise Yah. And thank you, sis. And I want to say salute. I see a couple of hey, what up, bros in the chat. Salute. Love y'all. Thank y'all so much. Some of these people started coming over to my chat, checking me out, Sister E, because they ran into me on your platform. I think earlier today, I done probably got the 8th person in the last month. Like, hey, I saw you on Sister E channel, and I'm my first time over here. And thank you. So I'm like, man, praise Yah. I appreciate the platform, because you just never know how people take. Yep. And now they want to check you out some more. I appreciate that. So wait, hold on. Y'all smell that?
What's that?
I smell smoke.
Oh, it's going to get real interesting here tonight. So let me tell you what we're talking about. I'm switching from the wrath. We're going to talk straight about the millennial reign. So Pastor Kelly was talking on Leviticus 23 and how the feast day line up to the Feast of Tabernacle. Am I saying this right, Pastor Kelly?
Yeah. When you mentioned Zechariah, I was kind of showing you what because many truly don't understand what the Feast of Tabernacles is. So so we took them here just so that way they can understand what it is. So when you reading the scripture or the scripture that Sister E made reference to about all coming together to honor the Feast of Tabernacles, not just Israel, but all the nations, according to the prophecy, just want to show the people, well, what does it mean? What does honoring the Feast of Tabernacles mean? And kind of give them a visual of what it means.
And what's so interesting is, and we can go into Zechariah in just a second, but we talk about how I was listening to you, young Chimney, and you were talking about how we're shunned, not necessarily, I'm just paraphrasing, being shunned because of the feast days, but I see the feast days being very relevant now and in the millennial reign, because if you look at Zechariah 14, and when you go into was it 16? And it talks about the survivors from all nations that have attacked Jerusalem will go up yearly, year after year, to worship the King, the Lord Almighty, and to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. And I said, they have to still follow through on the feast days, even while the King is on earth. And it says, if any of the people of the earth do not go up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord Almighty, they will have no rain. I said, and even in the 1,000-year reign, they didn't say Christmas, they didn't say Easter, they didn't say 4th of July, they said Feast of Tabernacle. 1,000-year reign. If you don't go into do yearly to worship the King, you don't get any rain. Rain means blessing.
Mm.
And that's what I kind of wanted to talk about. And I need to reword it. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that when you look at the book that we call the Revelation of Yeshua HaMashiach, the very last book of the text, what is the very end result of everything after the revelation has been revealed and things have taken their course? You see this city, and it talks about the tabernacle of God is with men, and he shall dwell among them and be their God, and they shall be his people. Who are they? I'm under the impression that if we go back to Revelation chapter 7 and you see that righteous remnant of the 12 tribes of Israel, and then this innumerable multitude coming out of all nations, peoples, kindreds, and tongues, who were given white robes and palm branches in their hands. And it says, and they are before the throne of the Lamb day and night, just giving praise. I don't understand that to mean that that's just where they stay. But in the idea of coming in and out of this city, as the scripture said, the kings of the earth do bring, and the nations bring their glory and their honor into it. And they're and part of the reform. It's interesting that the reform that is going to be instituted, because that's what I understand it to be. There's a reform, a regeneration that's going to happen with the rule of Hamashiach. And one of the first things he's going to institute is the need for this gathering that represents the fellowship of man as one with Elohim. And when any nation would go against it, you would see that, okay, this is where the seed of selfishness is in the earth, because the nation thinks that they're getting punished for not coming up just for themselves' sake. And he used Egypt as, and that's, I believe, Sister E, in that Zechariah 14, he used Egypt as an example. This would be the punishment of Egypt and any nation, right, who refused to come up before the Lord. But when you came up, even if you read in Torah, I think Pastor Kelly, I think it's Deuteronomy 16, or it could be 14, when they talk about 3 times in a year.
Yeah, I believe it's 16.
16.
Verse 16 and 17.
When they came up, your house was supposed to celebrate before Yah, you and all your house, and the poor and the stranger in the land. What was that a time of? That was a time of the blurring of the trials of life. When you are when you are in the things, a 7-day period of celebration, that 7, that Shabbat, that complete presentation of mirth and joy after the harvest is finished and brought into the storehouse. Now you and all of society shall celebrate before God. What? Because he receives glory, because the end result of the toil of man, according to his calendar. Remember, he started off with observing the Abib in the first month and bring you to the end of the second month with the celebrating of the tabernacles, and then the last great day. When you go through that process, there's something that we're being shown over that 7-month window. And then you go through this dormant time, and then it starts the process over again. I think that the punishment we see in Zechariah is indicative of how the nations will have to be chastised out of selfishness. Because when you make it about you not coming up, for whatever reason they may have thought they were justified in ignoring God's command, you're not going to necessarily look at the invisible God when you come up. You know what you're going to do? You're going to fellowship with his people. And when you use the fellowship with the people of God, those who are being obedient, coming together in commune, then you know what you're showing? You don't love your brother. Because if you can't come together with the people the way the Lord commanded, he don't believe you. You ain't seen him. You're going to only show your reverence for the Most High in your willingness to come together with everybody else in obedience. And when all the tribes of the earth come together in that type of obedience, we show what? The fulfilled will of Elohim. That obedience in the beginning of Yeshua's millennial reign is perfect. He was like, I don't rule with a rod of iron for nothing.
Well, you know, even to your point, and see, unfortunately, what and not trying to knock anyone that's in Christianity, you know, not here to do that, because we all have loved ones that's still there. Not trying to knock them or anything like that, but they will have you to believe that the Gentiles per se, in other words, all those that are all the nations, because unfortunately we have a poor understanding of what the word Gentile means. It simply means nations. That's all it is, you know. And if we want to put it within the biblical text,
hold on, Gentile don't mean white folk.
Come on now. I mean, not at all. I mean, unfortunately, you know, even in church, when we were in church, we didn't realize how silly we sound. Let's be real. We'll say, yeah, I'm a Gentile. Well, are you just saying that I'm part of the nations? I mean, you know what I mean? Now, if we want to get technical, I'm part of the nations outside of Israel. You know, so just to give clarity on that. So to your point, we will see that this is not something new, because as you highlighted, my brother, you pointed out Deuteronomy chapter 16, the 3 major pilgrimage days, right? For that all of Israel, the men had to bring their families and they had to come out here and honor these 3 key holy days, high holy days. Well, guess what? When you go to John chapter 12, right now, just as a matter of fact, sister, you could put it up on the screen so everyone can see it. But when you go to John chapter 12 and we highlight, let's just see.
Hold on, let me go. I'm in blue letter. Let me go. John chapter 12. Let me take you there.
And let's go down to, I'm trying to look here. I think it's verse 20. Let's see here. Yeah. Let's go down to verse 20. And this kind of, you know, at the same time debunks a lot of the poor teaching that many of us were subjected to, thinking that it was only the Israelites that was honoring the feast days, right? We see here, it says, and this is one of the pilgrimage, right, days, I mean, on high holy days, is the Passover. So all are coming from all around to come honor the Passover. But look at verse 20. It says, and there were certain Greeks among them that came to worship at where?
The feast.
You know, it's right there.
Correct.
And then we see, you know, 50 days later, you know, another feast day, they making a pilgrimage. And guess what? You see that there are proselytes among the Israelites coming out to honor what? The feast days. And they heard the disciples speaking in their language. So I just want to kind of tie this in with our brother Zadok, what he pointed out, to show the people that, look, it wasn't just the Israelites that were honoring the feast days. It was, even when you get to the book of Zechariah that you highlighted, chapter 14, that is not something new, right? Because understand, one law for the homeborn, in other words, the blood descendants of Israel, and those that are not blood descendants of Israel. What it means is when you embrace the covenant of the Most High that he had given to Israel, guess what? All those that are not blood descendants of Israel become what? Citizens, right? That's the key. Citizens. I don't even like using the term grafted because it doesn't give you the proper understanding of what it means. Citizenship. So now when we get to Zechariah, that prophecy, right? And tying it in what Brother Zadok pointed out, right? We will see that, guess what? All of them still had to what? Follow key instructions, right? The tabernacle. They had to come in and make a pilgrimage, all still coming to make this pilgrimage to do what? Honor the Most High for what he had done. And in this case, his judgment and preserving us past his judgment. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Anyway, let me stop right there. I don't want to go geek mode here.
You said geek mode.
But you know what? But it goes back into Revelation 7 and 9, and it talks about the great multitude of every nation, kindred, tongue, coming and standing before the throne and the Lamb. Stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes. So even then, you see that there are a multitude of nations. It's not just Israel. So with that, when you got the Gentile and Israel, what is the significance? It goes right into that conversation of what is the significance of Israel in that millennial reign? And that's the question I'm bringing to the table.
Well, let me say, if I could, because as you brought up that point, Sister E, Poetic Justice actually says some teach that Israelites were called Greeks if they lived in Gentile nations. That's not true. Some are teaching that. But in English, when we read in our Bibles, we'll see Greeks and Grecians. Greeks here, if you do the word study, is the word Hellen. If they were Greek women, it would be Hellenes. That is literally Macedonian by blood, like you're by nationality and tribe. But Hellenistes, which is the word Hellenist, is the word that was used. So for instance, when you're in Acts chapter 6, and it says the Grecians were arguing with the Hebrews because their widows were being neglected in the daily administration of widows. And then, the apostles come. When you look up the word Hellenistes, that is Hellenist. Hellene and Hellenese are not Hellenists. That's a literal Hellen. That's a literal Greek male, literal Greek female. A Hellenist is someone of another nation who lives like a Greek male or female and speak the language of the Greek people. So the word Grecian in our English Bibles in Acts chapter 6 and in a couple other places refer to Jews who came from, Greek culture. But that word, and it's the reason why Pastor Kelly chose that text on purpose, because that's not Hellenist in the Greek. That's Hellen, meaning literal, national, tribal Greeks. And that's the difference. And so sometimes Poetic Justice and many others, you have some who have, it's almost like anywhere you read the word Gentile, stranger, it say Greek. Oh, that's that. Oh, that's this. Now, so yes, sometimes you got words that are referring to the scattered tribes, but not every time. And that was one example, because Pastor Kelly is too educated. If he would have went to the English text where the word Grecian was referring to Jews who spoke Greek, he would have pointed that out. But I'm telling y'all, he's educated enough to have to use that, because if somebody wanted to challenge him, then he would bring out the etymological sword later. I just chose to use it to say that Pastor Kelly is right there 100% as far as my studies have shown. That word there was talking about blood Greeks who would have been called proselytes.
Absolutely.
They were at the feast.
Absolutely. And to that point, Sister, if you could bring up, and we'll just kind of kill two birds with one stone since we're here, go to Romans chapter 9, right? And when you get to Romans chapter 9, go down to verse 24.
All right. Let me take it over to the screen. Can y'all see it? Oh, here we go.
Okay. This is where sometimes it could be, many would get confused, right? To Brother Zadok's point, here you see, even us whom he hath called, not of the Jews only, but also of the Gentiles. Right here, you'll see the word ethnos. But to put the scripture in its proper perspective, you'll see throughout the entire text, it's making reference to the Israelites. So in this text, the proper context of Greeks here is dealing with the northern and southern kingdom, right? Far as the southern kingdom, you'll see that transliterates to Greeks here, and you can see that this ties right into the book of Hosea, chapter 2, because actually, in this text, Paul is actually highlighting Hosea chapter 2. But when you read this here, you'll see that they are referring to the northern and southern kingdom, because they are giving them an overview of what the Most High is going to do to with the Israelites. Because notice, in all through what we see, many will call the Old Testament, you'll always see a distinction. Once they became a divided kingdom, you'll see a distinction of the northern and southern kingdom. Well, guess what? That distinction didn't stop when we read the New Testament per se, but you have to understand, not everywhere where you see the word Gentile is going to automatically refer to, as Brother Zadok eloquently put it, that you're not going to always see that it transliterates to being non-Israelites, or it can also make a reference to Israelites. It can also make a reference to the northern kingdom, and that's what you will see in this particular text.
Now, hey, Sister E, if I could add, now I want thank you, Pastor Kelly, and I wanted to make that point, because what happens is some will try to go through the New Testament and slowly elbow salvation for the nations out and leave only flesh and blood descendants of Israel standing. The thing that is important here, in my estimation, is that Yeshua is not called the first Israelite in the text. He's called the second Adam. There's a reason he is given the title of the second Adam. He is the second man. Why is that? Then that means that there's a first Adam. So if he is showing the difference between the first Adam and the second Adam, then what we actually have to consider is that this is a work to redeem man. And all that there is no nation on the earth that is not a descendant of the first Adam. So how is it that you would relegate the second Adam only to a specific people group? That people group is the group that the Most High chose to teach all the sons of the first Adam the plan of salvation through. And even when the kingdom is established in Israel through the mercy of Yah, not their righteousness, but still through his mercy to bring forth his will, is set back in order. This text right here is one of my favorites, because it lets you know how we ought to consider ourselves. And it's still in Zechariah chapter 8. If we could go to Zechariah 8.
Okay.
And I would say roughly around verse 20, Zechariah 8:20, and it reads, "Thus saith the Lord of hosts, it shall yet come to pass that there shall come people, and the inhabitants of many cities, and the inhabitants of one city shall go to another, saying, let us go speedily to pray before the Lord, and to seek the Lord of hosts. I will go also." So as people are looking to come and find the Most High, and they want to learn of his ways, it says, many people in strong nations shall come and seek the Lord of hosts in Jerusalem to pray before him. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, in those days it shall come to pass that 10 men shall take hold out of all languages of the nations, even shall take hold of the skirt of him that is a Jew, saying, we will go with you, for we have heard Elohim is with you. Not that we going with you just because of any other reason. No, we heard he is with you. But how is it that they know that he will be with you? Because you're redeemed and you're back in your glory. The former desolations are built up, and now the nations will actually say this. Hold on. One more text I want to share. Let's go to. Hold on. See, I gotta get me. I need an e-sort on this thing. Is it Timothy I'm looking for? Hold on. No, it's not Timothy. I'm looking for the Old Testament. What text is that they say lies, vanity? Y'all know what scripture I'm talking about, Pastor Kelly? The one where it says the Gentiles shall come to the Most High from the very ends of the earth, and they shall say, surely the things we inherited.
The father of lies.
The things that we inherited are lies and vanity.
Jeremiah 16:19.
Jeremiah, yeah. Could you go there, Sister E? You said that's Jeremiah 16. Thank you.
16.
I knew I was thinking right, but I didn't know where it was. Jeremiah 16:19.
This it?
Yes. Look at this. It says, O Lord, my strength and my fortress and my refuge in the day of affliction. The nations, Gentiles, in the Hebrew, I believe here would be the Goyim.
Yeah.
The Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things in things wherein there is no profit. And so when the Most High says at this time, he will take of the children of Israel and raise them up for Levites and for priests and for princes. What will they do? They will be there in order to teach the nations correctly. When it says the law shall go forth from Zion, the nations are coming to Zion to learn. We just showed two texts that show they coming to Zion to learn. And who's there? Israel. And Israel will teach. Israel won't be the head of nations because they're warmongering oppressors. The Lord said, men of the earth shall no longer oppress in his kingdom.
Yep. And
Israel has to figure it out. The Lord told us even under the old covenant, if we obeyed, we would be the head. You didn't come out of Kemet the head. He said, if you obey my commandments and keep my covenant, you shall be the head and not the tail. So what makes Israel the head? It is not their war machine. It is their obedience to Elohim. And the redeemed Israel under the new covenant, everyone will be head of nations because the nations will see you in obedience. They're coming to the firstborn who's now obedient to say, we inherited lies and vanity and stuff that don't do us no good. And the law shall go forth from Zion through the mouth of Israel to the ears of the kings and the leadership of every other nation on earth. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to go back and reform. They're going to go back to their countries and reform. And the reason why it's so important for the nations to come up from, what do you say, from one new moon to another, and from one Shabbat to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me. But how will it be realized? What would that look like? I understand that to be as flesh continue to come to seek the Lord from week to week, month to month. Israel is there in obedience and in sanctification, showing everyone else how to become obedient and therefore becoming part of that sanctification.
That was my biggest question. That's a question I've had, because in that and you're going right into the point of what I've always wondered about doing 1,000-year reign. When Israel is because it's going to be like a reformation or a reform, or not necessarily a reform, but it's going to almost be a changing of Israel, and their hearts are going to change, and they're going to serve the Most High, and it's going to be, different. I'm like, what will Israel be doing in the last days? And everybody loves to say, kings and priests. I'm like, what I see at times is, are we going to be, or they're going to be, or us, or who? I pray that I say I can be a doorman. I'm fine with that. But will they be teachers, going to the nations and teaching truth? Because the interesting thing is the Most High is so merciful that even the stranger has another chance. The ones that don't take the mark of the beast have another chance in the millennial reign. Am I seeing it wrong?
Well, even then, like you touching on it, and Brother Zadok hit it on the nail as well. Even in the millennium reign, we still see a distinction. We still see
Yes.
Israel. And as Brother Zadok pointed out, it's an obedient Israel. You know what I mean? It's not the Israel that we see that got that was kicked out of their native land because of disobedience. Not the same Israel, rather, who throughout the book of Judges had to go from one captivity to another captivity to another captivity, right? So when we see this, we see that Israel is being the example, and actually we can actually when we go to Acts chapter 2, right? Just a key point. We have people coming from all around to honor the high holy days. Here, many will refer to it as the first fruits, but you see that they're coming to honor the high holy day. And here you see, of course, you see that you have the blood descendants of the Israelites here. Matter of fact, I think if you go a little further down, you'll see. Let me see. Let me see if I can pull it up on my Bible here. If you go down to, let's just say, verse 10, right? And notice what you see there. It says, "In strangers of Rome," but then you see Jews and proselytes, right? So you see that the converts have been there with Israel, when they made that transition out of Egypt. From, matter of fact, we could see proselytes dwelling in the house of Abraham before Israel came to pass. You know what I mean? Before his son, the promised seed, was born. So we see that even among his household, guess what? Everyone that was under his house, in his household, whether they was blood descendants of Abraham or not, they, in order to be up under his household, they had to be circumcised, because the covenant was what? Handed down to Abraham. As Brother Zadok pointed out earlier when he was dealing with Adam, right? The covenant was originally given to Adam, right? And then we see it goes from Adam to given to Noah. Then we see it from Noah to Shem. Then we see it a little further down, it gets to Abraham. Then from Abraham, we see now it's going to be what? That same covenant is going to be established with his seeds, right? But the key is we still see those that are what? Not blood descendants of Israel still being what? Under the same household and getting blessed.
That's interesting. Someone asked a question, because I know Zadok is thinking, and I'm gonna go to that question, and it's an interesting question that even I've wondered. Let me find it. Here it is. Zadok and Pastor Kelly. It says, "Will Israel have glorified bodies while the nations have mortal bodies?" I don't think we can. You all try to chime in on that one. I see Zadok. He lit up with that question.
I'll say this from the little bit that I understand. Those who are part of that first resurrection, Paul described it a little bit with a couple of times. I believe it could be Corinthians and then in Thessalonians. He made statements about those who would be alive when the Lord come, and they would be changed in the twinkling of an eye. And you had those who were called up out of their graves. In my limited understanding of it, I'm usually led to connect that to those who will be a part of this first resurrection, on who the second death hath no power. And whoever they are, I believe that whoever is a part of this first resurrection, that they're like what Christ was when he came up out of the grave.
Correct.
And that they're on the earth, but yet they're glorified. Because even I think what Messiah told his 11, he said, "You are they who have been with me through my affliction and my trouble." And when the Son of he gave him a promise, when the Son of Man comes into his kingdom in the regeneration, you shall sit on thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So when the apostles would tell you they were waiting for the redemption of the body, I'm under the impression that there will be power of men, male and female, whoever they might be, who are a part of that class of individual, and they will rule the earth, and the whole earth will be full of mortals. But they, like Hamashiach and like the angelic, the celestial beings we would call angels, they're celestial already, and they would be right in our presence. See, it's all about how we think about it. Like when Joshua saw the captain of the Lord's host standing over by Jericho, and he was like, yo, is you a friend? Dude was like, hey, man, I'm the captain of the Lord's host. Like, yo, what's your name? Don't worry about that. Them types, those are celestials, man. And they right in the presence of mortals. So the same way in the wilderness that those Malachim of heaven were there with the Most High in the wilderness, I believe literally, but still choosing to be invisible, however we would try to describe it, that same kind of experience is going to happen. But in Zion, when you come to Zion, there's a power there so powerful that when you come into the territory of Zion, you won't even be able to make a distinction between day and night.
Absolutely.
But when you leave the territory of Zion, going back to the nations, day and night is happening regularly. That's something that I don't understand. I could be off in some of my view of it, but I do have an understanding where celestial beings who were once men, regular men, who come with Christ as part of that first resurrection. Because I'll say it like this briefly. I believe that they're raised. It says they shall meet the Lord in the air. And where they going from there? I believe they coming right down to the Mount of Olives, according to the book of Zechariah. The Lord gonna come, and the Lord my God shall come, and the saints with thee, and his feet shall touch the Mount of Olives. And it say the Mount of Olives gonna split, and it's gonna be an earthquake in Jerusalem and all of this stuff. So I'm under the impression that those individuals in the first resurrection, once they're raised, those people will be given these redeemed, glorified bodies.
Correct.
And they're going to be a part of running this 1,000-year run with Hamashiach, who we definitely don't have any argument that he's glorified.
But when it goes
okay, go ahead, sis.
I was just about to mention about 1 Corinthians when it goes into 15 goes into I want to say 50, what's on here right now. And it says that in a moment, in the twinkling of the eye at the last trumpet, for the trumpet shall sound, the dead shall be raised and incorruptible. The dead shall be raised incorruptible and shall be changed. For this corruptible must put on incorruptible, and those mortals must be immortal. To put on immortality. So I'm reading it too fast. I'm sorry. So what I see here is this is corruptible. My flesh is corruptible. And in order for me to make it into the kingdom, I have to take on that incorruptible state in order to make it into the kingdom. Whereas I am mortal. To get into the kingdom, I have to be immortal. And it goes back into us. And I used to always wonder this. I said, 1,000 years, how is this body going to sustain for 1,000 years? It's not this body that's going to sustain. It's going to be the new body that he's going to give me. That's the incorruptible body. Because of sin, flesh decays. And because of that, and I can't take sin into the kingdom. This symbolizes sin. But the moment I take on that incorruptible state, I'm no longer myself. That means sin can't dwell anymore. So what are your thoughts? And that's what I got. And I was reading too fast, y'all. I'm sorry. Sometimes
and actually, you touched on what I was going to touch on, but then I also was going to highlight Revelation chapter 7, going down at verse 13. And we know that they are in the presence of the Most High that we see here.
Which
and as
one?
you pointed out, go to Revelation chapter 7, go down to like verse 13.
There you go. This one right here.
Yes, and it says, and one of the elders answered, saying unto me, what are these which are arrayed in white robes, and whence they came? And then when you go down to the very next verse, and I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said to me, these are they which came out of the great tribulation. You know what I mean? So this is actually tying into what you just pointed out, far as not having this corruptible body cannot enter in. There's going to be a transition from this, but we see here they're in the presence of the Most High. So of course, they're not going to have this flesh as we know it. There's going to be a shift. So I just want to highlight and kind of tie this in with the scripture that the text that you highlighted, that you just read to the people.
And that's interesting, because now the question is those that are outside of the kingdom, because are there going to be people that are outside of Jerusalem that just come and visit? Yes, yearly. So are they going to have a state of the corruptible flesh? Are they still going to be marrying and having children? Because we know the people in the kingdom, which is Israel, will not be taking on those type of roles anymore. But will that kingdom outside that has to come every year, will they still be the same? That's a question I got for the guys.
I would like to share a text. I do believe that there will be flesh and blood Israelites in the land. I just don't believe that whoever is a part of the first resurrection, all Israelites will not be worthy of the first resurrection.
Oh, say it again. Say it again.
All Israelites will not be worthy of the first resurrection.
Ooh.
That's not what I understand. And this is the reason why. Let's go to I believe it's Ezekiel chapter 38. And I'll show you why.
I think I know where you're going.
So
they loud over here. Ezekiel 38.
So there's a reason that the flesh and blood, there's a reason for the celestials, but these are just those particular ones who, have been brought back out of captivity, because the Most High says that the nations will bring your brethren back to the land the way that Israel brings a clean offering before the Most High. So the flesh and blood children of Israel that are scattered to the four winds like ourselves, we're not all guaranteed to be a part of the first resurrection, but we are guaranteed.
You know what? And that's going back to the point.
Yo, Talisha, leave me alone. My bad. Go ahead, Pastor.
Because that ties into the key is the great tribulation, right? So those that have endured that great tribulation, because remember, it said all those that endure to the end shall be saved.
Yes.
Right. So we have to endure that great tribulation that the Messiah talks about. Matthew 24 makes it clear that after all of this take place, then we're going to see a sign, see signs from the heavens that he's coming back. So that means that we all still have to go through there and have to endure that tribulation.
Yeah.
So to your point, that's telling us that, guess what? Even when we deal with the Israelites, not all the Israelites are going to endure. That's what it says. If it's possible, even the very elect will be fooled. So that's still dealing with who? The elect is Israel, right? So it's saying that Israelites will be fooled. So the disciples had to be really, the Messiah had to really talk to his disciples and not getting caught up in what's being said to them, not getting caught up even what we see like the rumors of wars and all this other stuff, because we're hearing a lot of rumors of wars right now. It may not be in the form of bombing another country or nothing like that, but it may also be when we start looking at the pandemics that are out here. Those are rumors of wars,
Right.
And we have to be careful of getting caught up into the rumors of wars when you start highlighting things that can be more rumors or fables, stories, right? Versus actually being the will of the Father. So going back to your point, that's why I just wanted to highlight that, just to your point, to confirm what you just said. So that great tribulation, it's going to be so many of our brothers and sisters that are not going to endure through that great tribulation. It's going to be a few that's not going to get caught up with the things that the Messiah pointed out in Matthew chapter 24.
So quick question. So you brought up something. You said some that go ahead, Zadok, and I'll wait. I'll write my question down.
Oh no, it was two texts I wanted to show right quick, Sister E, just to kind of confirm the idea of there being flesh and blood Israelites during the millennial reign. in Zion, living in flesh, living and dying, right? The first one is Zechariah 8. I went there earlier for the first 3 verses, but didn't read these ones. So in Zechariah chapter 8, if we go to verse 4, the Most High says, "Thus saith Yah of hosts, there shall yet old men and old women dwell in the streets of Jerusalem, and every man with his staff in his hand for what? Very age." Like, like the Most High is going to be so peaceful there that the expanse of life will once again start to take on what we used to read in the scripture. It says, "In the streets of the city shall be full of boys and girls playing in the streets. Thus saith Yah of hosts, if it be marvelous in the eyes of the remnant of these people in these days, should it also be marvelous in mine eyes? Thus saith Yah of hosts, behold, I will save my people from the east country and from the west country, and I will bring them, and they shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem, and they shall be my people, and I will be their God in truth and in righteousness." And then the second text I want to share is Isaiah 65.
Isaiah.
And when you go to Isaiah 65,
all right,
verse 17, and it reads, "For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered nor come into mind. But be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing, and her people a joy. And I will rejoice in Jerusalem and joy in my people. And the voice of weeping shall be heard in her no more, nor the voice of crying. There shall be no more thence an infant of days, nor an old man that hath not filled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old. But the sinner being 100 years old shall be accursed, and they shall build houses and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree are the days of my people, and mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands." And you keep reading, he's talking about the wolf and the lamb will feed together, and the lion will eat strong like the ox and stuff like that. So these scriptures here are basically giving us the idea that when Christ comes to bring this peace at his second coming, the state of Jerusalem Zion will be brought back to life by the flesh and blood descendants of the 12 tribes who are being brought back from all corners of the earth where he scattered us. And there will be a peace that we will come to learn, love, and enjoy. But notice this, it says, if a man die at 100 years old, he'll be considered like he was young. Y'all know how today, like something happened, and you see a 15-year-old, 20-year-old pass away, and you like, man, they ain't even get to live. Cat, man, you heard somebody die, like, y'all, how old was he, man? He was like 90. They like, damn, he was young.
Yep.
Because people will live to be able to live to be so old again. But if a man is found at that time being in error, he will be accursed. Why? Because sin in you will definitely not be, you won't even be able to throw the tempter. And at that time, because Satan he'll be locked for 1,000 for that millennium. So if a man find himself in the opposition to God, just like in Zechariah, see, we got to get the reason why Yeshua, and I'll end it here. The reason why Yeshua and rules with a rod of iron, he ruled with a rod of iron because man gonna have to be chastised.
Yep.
Into righteousness. So when we read that Zechariah 8, we read the other one. So when you get to Zechariah 14, he's like, look, man, y'all gonna have to come up and keep this feast. And the nation gonna get it in their head talking about, I ain't coming. Oh, you not coming? Well, y'all gonna starve then, because I'm not gonna let it rain on your land. This gonna be the punishment of any nation that what? Disobeys.
So it's gonna be some disobedience.
It's gonna be disobedience. That's why Christ with a rod of iron. If every man just gonna do what the Lord say, then there's no need for the iron rod. But to whoop men in order, Christ is symbolized as sitting on the throne with a disciplinary rod.
Mm.
And so,
Yep.
and so in verse 20 here it says, a child shall die 100 years old, but the sinner being 100 years old shall be accursed. So if you find a man who's doing evil, everybody gonna be looking at him like he crazy. He gonna be in trouble because you're gonna stand out so much in a place that's coming back to a time of great obedience. And with that obedience comes all of this blessing of life and peace and joy. And so, yeah, I pretty much went the long route to say, yeah, I'm under the impression from these and a few other texts I could have shared that there will be the flesh and blood children of Israel will start to reproduce generations again. If you go to Ezekiel 47, it actually talks about when the tribes come back, how the land gets split up among them.
Yep. Yep.
Pardon me. And any stranger from any nation who want to come and live in Zion, whatever tribe he decides he want to live among, the children of Israel will allow the stranger to live as a brother. But I tell you this, that stranger going to circumcise himself in his heart and in his flesh. And that's facts.
And they will be designated a piece of property within whatever, like you, to your point. And that's the part that many miss, is seeing that even when we, for example, we highlighted in Revelation chapter 7, we still see a distinction that is made, because that's still a fulfillment of the promise that the Most High made to Abraham, that Israel will be here forever. You know, so there is a distinction. Even when we get to the millennial and even beyond that, we see that there's still a distinction for the Israelites, the blood descendants of Israelite of Israel. And great point, Brother Zadok, and I agree with what you brought out.
So ultimately, I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth. So ultimately, going back to my question, but because someone asked this question, so there will be reproducing in the kingdom.
Yeah. See, what happens is there could be a mistake on, like, for instance, and I know how we can think. So, and I've heard I've been a part of a congregation for so long that a lot of these questions are good because I would take them as being genuine because of however we've been taught to perceive the kingdom. There was a question asked by the Pharisees about a woman who married 7 brothers and they all died and then she died. And then they asked the question, in the resurrection, whose wife would she be? Jesus, the children of the kingdom, you err not knowing the scriptures, because the children of the kingdom in that sense, what children of the kingdom? The ones resurrected from the dead. They're like the angels of heaven now. They're celestial. They don't give, nor are they given in marriage. That's not talking about flesh and blood people who are just born the regular way. That particular thing Yeshua commented on was talking, he was specifically asked about 7 men and 1 woman who all died but had a marriage covenant with that woman. So in the resurrection, you got these 7 men, this 1 woman, who she belonged to. Well, the resurrection is not, whoever comes out of the grave ain't coming out regular. That's different from the 12 tribes who are going to be gathered from the 4 winds of heaven, and the nations. The governments are going to do what they got to do to bring you back to the land. Them 2 totally different things happening at the same time.
Wow. Wait a minute. Let's go back. You know, I'm a little slow. Y'all got to help me. So ultimately, there's going to be a natural Israel that's going to be brought back to the land, but there's going to be a celestial version of it, of Israel, where those who died came back and received their glorified bodies.
Like the apostles.
Correct. Okay. It's good. It's good. Pastor Kelly, you sitting back, you look like you deep in thought.
Oh no, I'm just letting you guys flow. You know, I mean, because everything that you guys are pointing out, there's nothing to really, you know, go back and forth with, because you guys are doing a great job at explaining it to the people. So, you know, great points. You know, if I want, you know what I mean? I'm just listening to what you guys are saying.
Yo, hold on. My bad.
You must see Israel doctrine in here, don't you?
I see Israel doctrine in the chat.
Carl,
That
come
man
here.
said, so I can debate over here. That man always ready to swing a sword at somebody's neck. What up, Carl Albert, man? I ain't seen that man in a long time. Yo, salute the Israel doctrine, man. Oh, that was good. That did me good.
When I saw him pop up, I said, Carl, don't come over here and start nothing. He ready to come over here and start something.
Oh,
we not debating over here.
Me and Carl was debating back in like 2008. I got debates with me and Carl from 2008, so we've known each other for a long time. I got nothing but love for it.
No, Carl cool with me as
well.
Oh
man.
No, he doing well. He doing well. So, but don't come over here starting nothing, Carl. You know me. But he gonna call me. He gonna message me and say something real crazy. No, I'm just joking with you, Carl. You cool with me? With me. So with that, it's good. This is good dialogue because what's interesting is right now we're talking about what's going on in the last days, and then after the last days, I always wondered about the physical part of what that millennial kingdom would look like, because you have that one that's going to take on that incorruptible like Christ did. And when you look at it, Christ still had certain attributes where he could walk through walls but still eat fish. I tripped off of that when I later on saw it. But people are just gonna have though. It's going to be a different time, and it's almost like the spiritual and the physical realm will almost be one. Because if you, what were you gonna say?
We're still. I see Isaiah 65 is on the board. Can we back up to chapter 30 right quick? It's a text I want to show. Maybe it's nothing, but
which one? Isaiah. Which
Isaiah one? Chapter 30.
Okay.
And when we get there around verse, here we go. I'll start at 18. And therefore will Yah wait, that he may be gracious to you. And therefore will he be exalted, that he may have mercy upon you. For Yah is an Elohim of judgment. Blessed are all they that wait for him. For the people shall dwell in Zion at Jerusalem. Thou shalt weep no more. He will be very gracious unto thee at the voice of thy cry. When he shall hear it, he will answer thee. And though Yah give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, that's our condition now, the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet shall not thy teachers be removed into a corner anymore, but thine eyes shall see thy teachers, and thine ears shall hear a word behind thee saying, this is the way, walk ye in it, when you turn to the right hand and when you turn to the left. This idea of the redeemed Israel, I'm under the impression that you will have the redeemed Israel according to the flesh, but you will also have that power there who are the teachers of Israel. See, this is the thing. Remember, y'all, Yeshua could be invisible and visible when he decided to. Men, he's walking with individuals and they don't even know who he is. And then he allow their eyes to be open and they're like, yo, oh, it's you. This whole time, the brothers on the road to Emmaus, yo, didn't the whole time, didn't you feel like this dude was something? Mary, she talking to Yeshua, thinking he was the gardener. That she been with him, she loved him. How she didn't know who he was off the rip? Because whatever came up out the grave got the power of manipulation over everything. Y'all know the difference between visible and invisible? Power. Power. Our cells are invisible, but by the billions come together to make a visible presentation, which is us. Everybody talking about coronavirus, something invisible that actually can harm you. Even the bacteria in you that fight viruses. That's invisible, meaning it just simply means you can't behold it with your eye. But whatever Yeshua was coming up out the grave, not only could you recognize him, he could say, touch me. I'm not a ghost. I'm not a figment of your imagination. But then at the same time, they locked up in the building because they hiding from the Jews. and doors is closed and locked. And all of a sudden he's standing there in the midst talking about shalom was good. Whatever that is, when we picture celestials, what are we making them out to be? Are we making them any less than what Yeshua was when he came out the grave? These are beings who can be invisible and at the same time make themselves visible when they choose to.
Wow, just like when he came through, he was like, you know, when they finally figured out who it was and he showed his hands, he said, hungry. I'm hungry. I need some fish. I'm hungry.
He said, yo, what's up? Where the haddock? I know tilapia, where the haddock? Y'all cook me some damn haddock. And then how about this though? When he said, yo, meet me in Galilee, and they came and found him on the beach, they show up, he cooking fish and honeycomb. He making it like, yo, y'all come sit down. Let's talk.
Wow. And then they see the prophets.
So he can eat it if he wants to, but at the same time, we know he's not eating because he needs food. He didn't need food after the resurrection, but he's eating because he can. When Abraham was visited, quote unquote, by the Lord and the two angels, and it said when Abram met him, he went and bowed, my lords, come in. And it said he had the servant go prepare a lamb, and Abraham said,
"Oh, you getting into some stuff, man."
Okay,
you got the those that don't want us to eat meat. You know what I mean? That's one of the scriptures I go to though. But you know, a lot of those that are pushing, you know, not eating no kind of meats, they will definitely say they will fight against that. You know, and like I said,
I asked
you see right with the scripture.
Hey, Pastor Kelly, I asked a rabbinical Jew one time, did Abraham sin by setting dairy and meat before the Most High?
Exactly. That's the very question I asked.
He ain't know what
right here. Because in the text, when you see Lord, you see his name right there. So it's not just the angels. You see Lord, but you actually see Yahweh, or some would say Yahweh or Yahuwah, whatever you say. But it's right there in the text. I read it from the Hebrew just to make sure that I am not, misunderstanding or injecting something into the text that's not there. But you're absolutely right. This is what I go to and make it clear. Look, Abraham got a calf and they all ate good together. Had the milk out there and everything, prepared it and everything.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Most High was cool with it.
And I think it may have even said butter.
Yeah.
Hey, look, they getting all they fat and everything popping. But I only went to that to say, if we step back, I used to make celestial mean something I can't see. Well, I would say something that chooses not to be seen.
Woo! Wait a minute. You hit it right on the nail. You got folks in here saying, so we gonna have superpower. Superpowers. They want to be men.
Hey, I don't know nothing about that, but I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna humble myself, and I'm not gonna put myself among the order of great ones who we have the luxury of reading their story in the flesh because it's finished. We still got some time to go, God willing, and we got to endure until the end. So whatever the reward is, I just want to do right, and whatever the Most High feel that He wants to give me because of that through His mercy, I want that. And so at the end of the day, yes, I'm after eternal life. I want to be like whatever Christ was when He came up out of the grave. The scripture says, brethren, we are now the sons of God, yet it doth not appear fully what we are. But we know that when He shall appear, we shall be like Him, and we shall see Him like He is.
Yes.
So,
what's amazing is imagine what was not written down. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So that's why I believe that, of course, we have a lot what was revealed to us, but certain things we're not gonna know until we get there.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, just like with your kids, you can't give them every detail of how you're going to make a transition or get to a certain place. You have to just let them get there to appreciate when you get there. And so I just think about that too. Imagine what was what was said to the prophet, don't write this down. You know what I mean? Keep
Man,
this, but don't write this portion down, because even what we have a glimpse of what things to come. But guess what? We don't have everything of what's to come. It's still the Most High held some things back from his prophet from writing down. What were those things? You know what I mean?
yep.
So that's why this is good. But we, and as going back to what Zadok pointed out, we have to, number one, let's start perfecting what we are right now. So, before we even get to the other side, let's make sure we even make it to the side, that the good side of the judgment, so we can experience the other stuff that is spoken of, the stuff that we're highlighting in the text. Because
Yep.
unfortunately, so many people are not going to make it to that, to even get these glorified bodies. So many are not going to get that. I mean, when you're reading Revelation chapter 18, you see, I believe it's chapter 18, where you see that the remnant, you know what I mean? The things that's going to happen to the remnant.
Let's go through that. What's going to happen? What chapter, what verse?
Now, see, I was just freestyling, Sister E.
I was getting,
Let me see here. Let me pull it up here. When we go to Revelation chapter 19.
here we go.
And it says, and the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth, and the fowls were filled with their flesh. And then this carries over to verse 20.
Okay.
And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain, and laid, and this is where it gets to what we were talking about. But then it goes down when you get to verse 4, it says, and I saw a throne, and they that sat upon them, and judge was given unto them. I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witnesses of Jesus, or Yahweh Shai, and for the word of the Alahayim, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their forehead or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with the Messiah, with Christ,
Where
a
are
1,000
you?
years.
Where are you?
Revelation.
I'm in Revelation. What?
I went from the last couple of verses of chapter 19 to carried over to Revelation chapter 20.
I'm gonna, you know what? I'm sitting here like, I know I'm not crazy. So ultimately, the remnant is gonna have to go through.
That's the thing. We still have to go through.
Yep. So I mean, because it goes back into the thing of what's the deal with the place of safety that everybody keeps speaking of. If we're supposed to have to, if the remnant has to go through, where is the rapture and what is the place of safety?
See,
Now I'm
for
not
me,
saying,
I don't deal with the rapture because I don't believe in the rapture doctrine.
yeah,
You know
I
what I
don't even,
mean?
yeah,
Uh, you know, the Most High did make it clear that, yeah, as far as you're going to have those that are going to flee to the mountains, but even then, we still have to give up this body, right? You know what I mean?
yep,
There's going to be something that each one of us going to have to go through, regardless of the safety that we may find. But there's still something we're going to have to still give up this flesh. We cannot take this flesh and take it to to that transition. But overall, we still going to see is going to come a point that we all going to have to endure this great tribulation. Even when we get into a place of safety, you could still be in a place of safety and still have to deal with affliction.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That remnant still has to go through uh, the same thing that the Messiah went through. The Messiah had to go through, his
Mm-hmm.
disciples had to go through, and he said, no servant is greater than the master. So that means that we all still have to go through, even if we find a place of safety. That place of safety, still, you're going to have to go through these tribulations. None of us can get away from it. So that's why we all have to endure, no matter where we are, we have to endure to the end.
I will say there is a few different doctrines I've heard. Of course, the classical rapture doctrine after 3.5 years. There will be, there's going to be like an antichrist, like a wizard, warlock kind of figure who's going to deceive the earth with peace. He's going to go to Jerusalem and all of this kind of stuff and whatever he's going to do. Some people think it's the Pope. Some people think it's someone else. But with that, at the end of that begins at the end of them 3.5 years when he really reveals himself. At the same time, there's going to be a great evil where he's going to enforce the mark of the beast, and the true saints of God will be raptured off at that time, and those who are left behind, quote unquote, Kirk Cameron, the Left Behind movies, them corny joints. But those who are left behind will go through 3.5 years of the Great Tribulation, and then it's going to be something after that. And for Israelites, they believe that they're going to flee to a wilderness. I'm under the impression that if there is a wilderness, that it is not the wilderness of Sinai. When the Lord, remember y'all, the Lord said that he's going to plead with Israel in the wilderness like I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of Sinai. So first of all, I'm not under the impression this wilderness is Sinai. But the same thing going to happen in that wilderness that happened with our fathers in Sinai. Pastor Kelly just told y'all what it was. You're going to be tested with affliction. Israel was brought out of Egypt, and in order to get to the promised land, what happened? The Most High made them get hungry on purpose. He tested them with hunger and thirst and fear, and they complained and murmured against Yah. Now, for those of you who will accept it, I'm under the impression that the wilderness of the people that is talked about in the prophets is Israel scattered among the nations. That's where the Lord is going to plead with us. He has taken you into the wilderness. If you would have stayed as one people in Israel, the enemies would have tried to destroy us. So even in his mercy, his punishment in scattering us also saves us. Just as the apostles in the book of Acts, chapter 8, when that intentional community in Acts, in Jerusalem, was threatened with death, what did the apostles do? They sent all the disciples away from Jerusalem and they scattered. And everywhere they went, the gospel was preached. And it says, and only the apostles stayed in Jerusalem. So I'm under the impression that while some people are looking to escape to a wilderness place of safety, the Most High said he's going to plead with you in that wilderness like he pleaded with your father. So what's safe about it?
And you know what, Zadok, to your point. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, Pastor Kelly. I'm just throwing it out there because I could be wrong. But when I hear this wilderness, like it's almost like a reverse of the rapture. Those who are going to be raptured off going to escape. They're going to like kind of float above the earth for almost 4 years and just watch the poor bastards who ain't get to make that one. I don't believe that. But then I hear Israelites teach. What you laughing at? I hear Israelites teach that they're going to escape to a wilderness and just be safe and ain't no harm going to come to them. But the Most High said, I'm going to plead with you in that wilderness like I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of Egypt. Well, look how he pleaded with our fathers in the wilderness of Egypt. And whatever they think this wilderness they're going to go to is the same thing. He said, because there I will weed out the rebels and the liars. So when you go to this wilderness, if y'all think it's something like Sinai, just expect a whole bunch of you cats to die there too. Because he's, you know what, the rebel and the liar.
Wow.
And to that point, right? If you go to Matthew chapter 24 and you highlight start at verse 25. If you could pull it up to see, that'd be great.
Pulling it up now.
Just to my brother Zadok's point.
Where you going?
All right. Now, what does it say? Behold, I have told you before. So this tells you that this conversation that you see here, the Messiah had to share with his disciples a number of times, because Even then, they were wondering, when is the end coming? When will Jerusalem be restored? Where will, just like we have today, you have people asking these questions, just like the discussion that we're having today, right? The Messiah had to go through this with his disciples back then. It says, behold, I have what? Told you before. But here's the kicker to Brother Zadok's point. Verse 26, wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Wait a minute. What's happening right now? So many are trying to do what? Go into these places of seclusion, thinking that they're going to find safety there, and thinking that the Messiah, and actually many of them are taking on this Messiah complex. But he says, behold, he is not where in the desert, right? But he didn't stop there. He said, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers. What did he say? Believe them not. So many are going to try to isolate themselves, while others are going to try to get into positions and groups and secret chambers. This ties into Ezekiel chapter 8. Right? When you start seeing the secret chambers and the things that was happening inside the secret chambers. But nevertheless, he said he is in the secret chambers. You could say fraternities, sororities. You could say government, you know what I mean? Because they do a lot of things in secret chambers. But to Brother Zadok's point, behold, he is in the desert. So many are going to say this to try to circumvent judgment, thinking that you're going to not have to go through anything, thinking that you're going to find safety in these man-made places.
I mean, it's called the place of safety, but like if you read Ezekiel 20, he's just telling you a process he's going to put you through and bringing you up out of it. If you don't mind going there, sister. Oh, she already in front of the kid. All right. So the Most High says in Ezekiel 20 and around verse 33. He says, as I live, saith Yah Elohim, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you. And I will bring you out from the people and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there I will plead with you face to face, like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you. And I will cause you to pass under what? The rod, man. And I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. And I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me. And I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel. And you shall know that I am the Lord. So no one can point out specifically what that is. But people calling it the place of safety. Maybe you confusing that with what happened with that woman in Revelation 12, and however people want to get into the hyperbolic language of Revelation, when that woman takes wings like an eagle and fly into the wilderness where there is a place prepared for her for a time, times, and half of a time. They might be linking that up because it said a safe place was prepared for her. And I think what's happening is they're taking Revelation 12, not explaining fully what that is, and then they read something like Ezekiel 20 and they make that Revelation 12 situation this. Nah, that right there was 1,260 years, or literally 1,260 days, however you want to put it. This right here, this is a problem. Because a whole bunch of people gonna see cats who claiming to be God, the Most High's people, die. Under what? The rod. He said, I'm gonna bring you out and make you pass under the rod. You know what that means? I'm gonna have to chastise y'all.
Judge you. Yeah.
So don't call this. Don't go call this the wilderness of judgment or something. But don't run here and teach us that we should run to whatever this is. Most High gonna have to make us go there because this don't look fun.
Like even to your point. Right now, guess what? I'm not going to Israel. I'm going to wait till the Most High say go move, because no matter where you go to, you still have to deal with when that judgment comes. No matter what, you still have to, even before the judge, we still have to deal with the great tribulation, no matter where we are.
Yep.
No matter where we are in this world, we still going to have to deal with the great tribulation.
Yep.
We just can't get away from it. So, and this is not knocking anyone that are going, going to Africa. That's not my point by saying that. My point is just saying, no matter where you go, you're still going to have to deal with this great tribulation.
And it goes back into the thing that the ones that endure until the end shall be saved. If I'm in a place of safety, why is it emphasized that I have to endure? What am I going to endure? What am I going to have to endure? And the ones that endure until the end shall be saved. And that stuck out to me when I first heard that scripture reread to me, going into the truth. And I think the first person that brought it to my attention was you, Pastor Kelly, and then I heard Rebirth talk about it. And I said, so ultimately, his people are still going to have to endure something until the end.
You can't escape it. And think about what happened in 70 AD. Man, when you really start getting into how graphic and the tortures and the lynchings that took place, I like to use the word lynching versus, crucifixion, because our ancestors were lynched. When people were being hung all throughout the city, all through the path. They had to go through a tribulation. But guess what? We're still in that tribulation. We still have to deal with it. We in that great tribulation right now. And think about the things that we're witnessing. Think about the fear that we have right now. Many of us, especially if you get pulled over by a police officer, you're going to have a sense of anxiety. You're going to be curious of, hey, man, what type of officer is this? Am I catching a bad officer, or am I catching a good officer? We have to still deal with certain things that come with the territory. Certain things of like we talked about, this virus and all these other different things that are out there. We have to endure all of these things to the end. So many have walked away from the faith because of these things that are taking place. So we have to endure. Those Hebrew boys, young men, guess what they had to do? They had to endure. And the key is, even though it was just the four of them, Daniel and his three friends, but there were other Israelites that had an opportunity that bowed down. But guess what? They still had to deal with what they had to deal with. Daniel got thrown in with the lions, and his friends got thrown into the belly of the beast, that furnace. So they still had to go through what? A tribulation. We just can't escape it.
Hey, I see that the brother or sister, I'm not sure if they're male or female, up next asks, I think it says, are you saying Gentiles are going through this with us? This is all covenant language addressing the cause for violating the covenant. Well, it's all about who was under the covenant. Moses said it under the old covenant. He said, this message is for you, the children of Israel who stand here, and all the strangers among you, with their families and their sons and their daughters too. Who got punished in the wilderness? Israelites and the mixed multitude who went with them. Who coveted after the quail and got killed in the plague? The multitude who went lusting after flesh, and the children of Israel who weep, saying, we ain't got no flesh to eat. Oh, that there was flesh. And the Lord sent them quail, and the Hebrews and everyone with them. They went for them quail, and as soon as they started eating, the Lord sent a plague and smite it and smote thousands of them. So I know that there's, look at this. And I'm going to say this and I'll be done, because it's late, y'all, and I've been up and I got to go sleep. But the children of Israel themselves, Jacob's sons, they weren't born Israelites. Jacob became an Israelite when a marker was set on him by the Most High. Jacob had 11 sons who were already alive when his name was changed to Israel. So they took on their father's identity. Abraham and Ishmael, his flesh and blood son, they were the only ones from that family order who were circumcised. As the agreement between God and Abraham, he took a token of the covenant, He took a sign of the agreement between him and God in his flesh, him and his 13-year-old son. The majority of the people who were circumcised outnumbered Abraham and Ishmael, you could say 10-1. They were all strangers from other ethnos who took Abraham's sign in their covenant as members of his house. This is why the preaching of the gospel is being given back to the children of Abraham according to his order, not just according to his flesh, because the children of the flesh aren't going to always live up to the promise. Ishmael represented the son of the flesh, where Abraham thought this is who it's going to be, but there was a child that was given by promise and not by Abraham's own work. So I just want to say to everybody, the Gentiles are saved, man. Stop trying to take what the Most High gave them from them. Israelites, you're going to have a whole bunch of Israelites who will never make it to the kingdom, who will see eternal damnation. And the Most High told the sons of the stranger who would follow him that they would be accepted because his house would be called a house of prayer for all people. So stop making it like Israel going to go through something by ourselves and no one else. No, Israel isn't going to go. It has to happen in front of the world with them involved, because they will see their salvation in us as we're redeemed, as we're brought back.
Wow.
And whoever is cleaving to Israel will cleave, and they won't have no bones about it. They will serve Israel. If you're going to come and live in Zion, you have no problem serving Israel. Just like no Mexican ain't got a Mexican who want to become an American immigrant ain't got no problem learning how to speak the English. They gonna work the jobs. They'll landscape. They'll hit the restaurants because they find their salvation. They find the future of their families in this place under this order. But this is the thing: every nation will have their kings, their priests. They will have their kings and their leaders. When the Lord said he's going to punish Egypt in Zechariah 14 if they decide to not come up, it's not Israelites there running Egypt and Israelites being no disobedient. No, the children of Egypt are in charge of their own country. Israelites will not run their country. So we got to get it right when we think of Israel being the head. Israel is the head in Zion, sitting there in obedience. And strangers will come to Zion to live. And whoever going to live among Israel will serve Israel. But all these nations will have their kings, and they will have their land and their territory. Gog and Magog will have their land in peace for 1,000 years. And when they think evil and say, we're going to go up there and attack Jerusalem, after that 1,000 years, them not Israelites in charge of Gog and Magog, and they just no. I think people got it in their head that Israel ruling the kingdom mean they got control of everybody. That's not what it means.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, my brother. Is the problem is they're looking at things from the now. They're thinking that the conditions that we see today, and unfortunately how many are flipping the slavery thing, the chattel slavery, and making that into a way of teaching the text, but that's not what it means, like you pointed out. We see an idea of that when we go back to Exodus. How was the strangers were supposed to be treated? They were supposed to be treated just like they were citizens. Those that embrace the covenant, right? By way of what the circumcision that you pointed out, and honoring the Shabbats. They were treated just like everyone else. You could not bring false reports against them. You can do any of those different things. But the key is they are what? Citizens. And like the key point that you made, when others want to come into this country to live, to dwell, they embrace what? The covenant. They embrace the covenant. They embrace whatever the Constitution here, they embrace it. Because and before they even can become a citizen, they have to learn it. You know what I mean? They have to learn the covenant before they can even become a citizen. Why do we think it's going to be any different? The Israel that many people thinking when they say, hey, all the nations going to serve Israel, they thinking of where we are today. And that's not the case. That's not the case. But great point, my brother Zadok. Great point.
Definitely a great point. So we have been going 2 hours. I'm gonna let everybody give their closing point, and we will close up for the evening. I think this was great dialogue. I'm gonna change the title of this because we weren't dealing with the judgments, but more so Israel and the millennial reign. And so I'll start with you, Pastor Kelly.
I just want to say, matter of fact, let me see what's going on with my computer here. Can you hear me, Sister?
Yep.
All right. Just want to say, family, this was a great discussion. Appreciate my brother Zadok. Appreciate you, Sister E, for having this discussion and allowing us to give some clarity on a number of things that needs to be clarified. Really appreciate it. Want to encourage those that haven't seen it. I did do the full series on the resurrection. It's in part 1 and part 2, showing the day of resurrection, showing you that you can actually reconstruct the very first calendar that was given to Israel, and how it lines right up with the death, burial, and resurrection of our Messiah. So I encourage everyone, go peep that series out. Is there, and also just be encouraged with everything that's going on with the especially what the hot topic is the conversation about Micaiah Bryant and her situation. Let's not become divided even discussing some of the things that have happened or the things that we witnessed with our own people. We should never become divided over discussing that tragic situation, but still be encouraged. And remember, as Brother Zadok pointed out, Israel, we're supposed to be the example. We're supposed to be the representation of the answer, not the reflection of the problem. And right now, many of us are being a reflection of the problem and not being a reflection of the solution.
Correct.
So, like I said in our assembly, be the living word. You may be the only Bible or the only dabar that others may see.
Correct.
So govern yourselves according to that. That's all I got, Sister. You can't go back, can't stay here. Keep moving forward, quoting Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 and 14. Fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today, you'll never have to deal with it again. In other words, it will not have power over you again. For the Most High will fight for you, but you have to hold your peace. Can't go back, can't stay here. Keep moving forward.
All right. Young Chimney, what do you got to say for the people before we close?
Salute, sis. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to build with Pastor Kelly as well. And, like the Most High said to us in Hosea, in Hosea 10, he says, sow to yourselves in righteousness, man, and reap in mercy. Break up the fallow ground. It's time to seek Yah till he come and rain righteousness upon you. He said, break up the fallow ground, get to work, get busy on what we're supposed to be doing as his people. We're telling everyone who we think we are. We got to be busy proving that. We got to break up that fallow ground until the Lord come and rain righteousness upon us. When you work in the field, you plant and you toil in the sun, waiting for that rain to come. The Lord will bring the increase. His word will not come back void, but I would not want us to fall after the mistake of our fathers. In the wilderness, they were warned. The generation who got to live was warned because they saw the generation of elders die off. And in Deuteronomy and the resetting of things, Moses said, don't say to yourselves, because we're righteous and these people are evil, we're going into this land. He said, no, you've been hard-headed since I know you and your people. But you're going in because of the promise that Elohim made to your fathers, Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob, and you are their children. And simply on that reason and that reason alone, the Father's pleasure is to keep his word. let us not get overly proud in the fact that the Most High is keeping his word to us. Because remember, he told Moses, hey, you stand aside. I'm going to kill all these people like one man. And I'll keep my promise to Abraham by starting it over with you. So don't let 1,000 of us be haughty and the Lord smite 999 of us and use one to still keep his promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We want to make sure that the love of Hamashiach is found among us. If we're Israel, let's stop saying we Israel and let our love for each other say who we are. That will say we're Israel, because it is time for us to build one another, build ourselves in order to build one another. Anything other than that is an exercise in rod measuring, if you understand what I'm saying. We just trying to measure our size against each other.
Yep.
But that don't prove we love one another. It don't prove that we willing to go to bat for our brothers and our sisters. So let us continue to study. Let us continue to seek his face and continue to look at the person of Hamashiach so that we can understand the Torah is expressed in the perfect obedience of his son, in whom he is well pleased. And if we want him to be well pleased in us, then we supposed to kind of be looking more like who he's well pleased with.
Correct. Thank you, my brothers. I always love for y'all to come on. Because y'all bring people so much information. I always wanted to do this for the people, because a lot of people don't get that opportunity to get teachings during Sabbath. And this is their opportunity to come together and fellowship, if it be in the chat, and then listen to you all teach, and be able to have a day of rest. Because again, a lot of people in general don't get that luxury of having an assembly near them. So you brothers brought the assembly to the people, and they're able to be able to enjoy Sabbath Eve or Sabbath and fellowship with one another and get great teachings. And this is why I call it Kickoff Sabbath, and I'm gonna continue on with this. But I just wanted to say that, and thank you all. Thank you for coming again. And I'll see y'all next Friday. Let me know if y'all can do this. I always want to make sure that I don't collide into my brother Young Chimney, because he has some amazing teachings. I enjoyed you today. I hated. That's why I was running a little late too, because I was watching you and it was really good. And I'm gonna go back and finish what I couldn't get, but it was really good. You really brought some good insight in. And you as well, Pastor Kelly, yesterday, amazing. Glad to know you out the pen. You're able to come back into the lives and bring great teachings, and the Savannah trailers you've been giving us. Man, we can't wait. I know I can't wait. So
I'll have that done this week as well. I'm planning on having it done by next weekend.
Have you seen it, Young Chimney, the trailer?
Which one? For what? Which one?
Mr. Pastor Kelly got a trailer he gonna do, and it's gonna deal with slavery, but it's gonna be deep, and it's a trailer that he did. Ooh, it'll bring tears to your eyes.
Well, I'm gonna have to go check it out. I think the last thing I saw of Pastor Kelly, I think I saw him put something up about the police shootings that happened. So no, I haven't seen that trailer yet. I'm gonna have to go check it out.
Yep, it's powerful. It's
okay.
Powerful.
I'm on top of that.
But guys, thank y'all so much. Chat, thank you so much, y'all, for coming out. And I enjoy your Sabbath. Have a restful day on tomorrow. If you can find some lives online, like Pastor Kelly, or if Young Chimney haven't had something, anybody go out there and check it out. But enjoy your Sabbath and get you some rest. And see you later on this weekend. I may do something. So, all right, family. Shabbat shalom.